Hi, my name is Gerhard Gschwandtner and welcome to Selling Power's Daily Report. Today we continue our coaching series with Keith Rosen and we are going to meet with Jamie.
You mentioned to me earlier that you spend a lot of time handling a lot of inbound calls coming in, and also part of your responsibility is to penetrate some of your existing accounts, leverage those accounts to uncover other selling opportunities within those existing clients. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
And when you actually are on the phone and making these calls, there must be some resistance you get sometimes on the other end of the phone.
You know, in our industry, timing is everything for a sale. So that's something that's kind of an obstacle to stay on top of. A response that I would get would be, for example, we're not right now, we have, no budget for it right now. Or
how do you push through that?
You really have to read the customer, whether they're just telling you that to get you off the phone or whether there really is something in store. So a lot of times, my first response would be, okay, that sounds great, when would be a good time to touch base with you? Or even, well, you know what, that sounds great, but I'd love to come by and meet you anyway.
I'm curious, so it sounds like you're coming to the call and you have your agenda, as every salesperson does, but sometimes our own agenda actually creates the very barriers that we're looking to avoid.
Definitely.
So here you are going onto the call focused on that end result. Your end result, your goal is to get into that meeting and penetrate that account. Think about what you said you wanted to do. Your goal is to build relationships and foster relationships. So here you are jumping on a call. Your mindset is focused on the end result. Therefore, you can't be engaged in the moment because you want to create questions. And creativity is at the root of the greatest salespeople I know, the most creative. Here's the thing about creativity though. At what point of time does creativity happen? In the moment, right? So sales are created in the moment. Part of our role is to create solutions for our clients and prospects. Creativity happens only in the moment. It doesn't happen in the past, and it doesn't happen in the future. So if we're hooked on our own outcome, if we're hooked on our own agenda, we can't be as creative as we can. So because of these things, we actually create a barrier to our listening, to our ability to be creative, to provide new and unique solutions, and ask better questions.
So how would you go about kind of getting past that initial, hi, this is who I am, this is where I'm calling from?
I think that first and foremost is that to shift your objective away from getting to that appointment and moving it to being in the moment and really looking to see what value you can deliver for that prospect in the moment, today when you're making that call. And the other part of it, which I think gets in the way, is that if we're coming to the call with an agenda, if there's two people in the sales process, there's you and there's the prospect or client. Who is the sales process supposed to be about?
The prospect or client.
Who are you making it about?
Myself.
So there's that disconnect as well. Instead of actually putting the spotlight on them, and every salesperson theoretically knows, oh, it's about the customer, it's about the prospect. But what they wind up doing is they're making it about themselves. So by actually putting the onus back on to the prospect, focusing on the prospect, it removes the pressure, number one, for us to look good and perform, and now we can focus on what we do best, which is give value. It sounds to me, when you hear an objection, you're trying to push through it. And I admire that. I admire your strength through that. But what if there was more of a permission-based way to handle it? Because think about it. When you hear something, and then when we push back on it, what type of atmosphere does that create between you and the prospect?
More of a kind of fight for power, I guess.
Yeah, it creates more of an adversarial position. It's you versus them. Their mindset that you're now trying to change by pushing forward. Now, who's going to win every time?
They are.
They are, because they have the power, right? They can just hang up that phone.
Exactly.
So instead of pushing for that next step, what if we ask permission instead? What I find is sometimes the real objection is several layers deep. So what you typically hear first off is more of a smokescreen rather than a core concern or obstacle that's truly getting in the way of moving forward. So when you hear a response like timing, instead of going ahead and responding with a statement, what if instead you respond with a question to every objection? So if we can dive deeper into that, we're going to find out a lot more of the concerns that they have. Maybe they're short on resources. Maybe they're going on a national conference. Maybe they're closing out their fiscal year. But once again, it's more data that we can aggregate is going to help us be a better solution provider for them. When they come back to me and say yes, I now have a prospect who's willing and engaged in hearing what I have to say rather than me pushing the sales process forward.
The idea of forcing them to ask questions rather than me asking questions, I definitely think that's an effective tool. I think that would help penetrate, because I think that could lead to further questioning.
And it also will help you uncover who the real qualified prospects are. Well, Jamie, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate it too.
Keith, how do you think you did as a coach with Jamie? Was she as easy as the previous example?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily whether it's easy or hard, Gerhard. It's more important that the person is at least open to change and open to new possibilities and open to new ways of doing things. And Jamie was a great example of that. And by her coming up with more of a permission-based approach, it allowed for deeper, meaningful dialogue within a conversation with a prospect, for her to pull out more relevant information rather than just keep pushing the sales process forward and making those follow-up calls every month without realizing whether or not they're a prospect they should even be doing the follow-up with.
What I liked about you were teaching was that the image that came to my mind is the objection is really like an iceberg, where you see like 3/10 above the water and you don't see what's below. And you helped her effectively through your coaching ask the right question to surface all the other hidden obstacles that are in the way that may prevent the sale.
Sometimes the real objection is 3 to 4 layers deep.
It was a good lesson. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.